Tell me about your journey with mental health. Tell me about your journey, your boldness to seek therapy. Because sometimes it's not always an easy option. Um, it's much easier to go, it'll be all right. It's just a phase. Let me share with mom. It's okay. Mom gives great advice. Or I'm sitting and thinking, reflecting on myself, going, if I tell my mom I need a therapist, she's like, just sit and chat with me. What do you need? Let me make some tea for you and you'll be all right. Tell me about the realization, but also tell me about the step.
Mums do give great advice, and don't get me wrong, my regular phone calls with my mum are a bit therapeutic sometimes. I'd always been an angsty child. I think without sounding too arrogant, I think I have quite a high emotional intelligence. So I notice things in others and I take a lot in. I always have. And in that sense, I've always been very detail oriented in terms of how people are feeling around me. I notice the little things. And it wasn't until I always loved school. My last year of year 12, I went through a really, really rough time. There was just a group of girls. I annoyed the wrong girl in the wrong group. And my last few weeks, 6 weeks of school, which sounds like such a short amount of time when you think about it, but it was, when it's your whole world like that, it was really, really rough. And I went from wanting to go to school even when I was on death's doorstep with sickness throughout my whole schooling career to not wanting to go near the building. And it wasn't managed very well in the school. And I even remember I had mums calling me on behalf of their daughters, abusing me. It was awful. And I don't think I ever dealt with that properly. And so that was kind of always niggling at the back of my brain. And straight out of school, I went to uni and studied law. And that was kind of what you did if you were okay at school in a small town. If you got maths and science, go be a doctor. If you got English, writing, history, you go and be a lawyer. And so I went and did law and I hated it. I did not fit in. I didn't fit in with the other people that were doing law. And I think looking back on it now, I think I was a bit burnt out because I had pushed myself. That crazy work ethic that I'd inherited from my mum, I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. So I came back and I didn't last a semester at uni doing law. And I worked with my mum and dad for a few years. And it was in those years, there was a few times that I remember saying to mum, I was like, I'm just so overwhelmed. I don't know what I'm doing. I felt like I was behind in life because I hadn't gone to uni and I wasn't where I thought I would be. And it was kind of like you have this whole identity crisis about where I should be. And similar to women with their, with fertility, it's like, it's a same pressure on a timeline for when you get out of school. Like, how come you don't know what you want to do with the rest of your life when you're 18? Like, how am I supposed to know? I don't even know who I am yet. Like, I'm 31 and I'm still figuring it out. And I remember my beautiful mum saying to me, sweetie, I don't think I can help you. And she suggested that I go and see a psychologist. And I remember her taking me, anyone who has tried or has seen a psychologist will, I hope, relate to this. Sometimes it takes a few goes because you just don't click. There was a couple of psychologists that I went to that mum took me to, and I remember walking out and just looking at her and being like, no, like that didn't work.
You didn't like the couch?
Oh, the couch was okay. I mean, I could sit on the couch for hours. It was just the methods and whatever their particular approach to it, we just didn't click. And I found personally that I dealt or interacted better with a male psychologist. I learned that along the way. I'm very black and white in terms of, give me practical solutions, which is wild because, we're talking about emotions and everything, but I always found that a male psychologist, somehow I just lent more towards that. So I reached out. I did therapy kind of around my early 20s, and then I went back to a therapist, would have been after one of my breakups that was just a lot. And it was around the time that my acne flared up and my body, like my body was just crumbling. I didn't know what was happening. I was stressed all the time. I was achy. But I was also run for 30 kilometers on the weekend to keep my mind at bay and distract myself. And because my life had kind of just been turned on its head, wasn't where I thought I would be. And I had this idea of building this life with someone, and it just changed in an instant, and unfortunately it's just life. And I needed to speak to someone who had no interest in the matter whatsoever. And I could just kind of throw things at them and have them come back at me and be like, no, you're not, your feelings are valid. That's reasonable. You're not crazy. This is totally normal. And even just a space to vent, because I often feel like, as someone who is usually a pretty positive person, I try not to whinge too much, because I know, we've all got that one person in the office, or whether it's in the family or whatever, who is the Debbie Downer, a little bit negative. And I never want to be that person. So my therapist, it's a safe space where I can just unload, and they don't know who I'm talking about. And if they do, they're not allowed to tell anybody. It is this beautiful little nugget of just relief and getting the emotions out. And sometimes I feel much better after a good cry. And if they are a good psychologist and you've been with them for a while, then they often know your triggers and can show you what your triggers are and how to deal with that better. So yeah, I reached out a number of times throughout my life to get help, because if, like my clots, I reached out to a doctor to get help with that. Why wouldn't I with my mental health?
And if somebody's struggling with the decision of, should I see a therapist or not? What are some of those markers that you can share to go, these are the points when I thought about it? Like, you were blessed to have good old Carol saying, let me take you, darling. This is what I can do. That's the open-mindedness she has. That's the level of care, support, and love she has for you. Not everyone's that fortunate. What are some of the markers that you went through that you went, this is the right time?
Looking back on when I had quite an intense breakup and I really wasn't feeling myself, I just hated myself. And there's always been an innate confidence there deep in me, ever since I was a kid. But my life was just turned on its head and I felt so silly, and I was just, I didn't like myself. And I think, like you said, I was lucky enough early on that my mum had shown me and pointed out to me that it's okay to seek help. And so I still kind of had that attitude instilled in me. I think the point that I reached back out of my own accord was just when I recognized that I was really, really low. And there were days that I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't like myself. And, you sometimes have those really intrusive, awful thoughts. And at that point, I was like, nope, I am worth more and I do need help. And it is easier said than done. And as someone who has experienced that, I understand. But I started my initial therapist appointments during that time of my life just over the phone, because I found it too overwhelming to go and sit in front of someone and talk to them about it, because I would just be distraught for the next 2 days. And I was like, I can't afford to do that now. I still need to go to work and function as a human, and so if you go to your GP, you get your mental health plan, which we are so lucky to have as well. And I remember thinking to myself, I didn't want to spend the money. There are ways around that. Even in my workplace, all the workplaces I've been in, there is some kind of avenue for mental health. And help, whether it is psychologists, therapists, and even just taking that initial action of being like, I do need help. Oh my gosh, the relief. And that people get in touch with you and you get the process rolling, because then it even makes you feel like, oh, this is going to get better, and that action of reaching out and booking an appointment, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a Skype, Zoom, Teams chat, whatever it is, or it is in person and you go and sit on the couch, like, that's a step that values your worth, because you are worth working on. And there is a light at the end of the tunnel that you want to be better for, because, life is this beautiful, big, brilliant thing. And why wouldn't you want to make the most of it and improve your mood so that you can live it to the full?